Rev up your engines!
This is a story of the invention of the muffler. Milton didn't only set out to solve the problem of noise. He wanted to reduce both noise and fumes created by the motor car he built. His invention of the muffler solved the problem of noise. It would take another 40 years before engineer Eugene Houdry invented the catalytic converter, which reduced the problem of toxic gases. Later in the video, we'll look at Eugene's story too. Without these two men, noise and air pollution caused by motor vehicles would be much worse than it is today. Now you're probably aware of the dangers of toxic gases like carbon monoxide that your car releases. But you might consider noise less of a danger. The truth is, noise kills. Loud noise at work and consistent traffic noise makes the risk of heart disease 4 times higher. This is why protective hearing gear is required by law. It's also why states impose noise regulations. This goes back as far as 1905, when the state of Oregon passed a law that required vehicles to have a light, a muffler, and efficient brakes. Today, most states don't allow exhaust noise of over 90 decibels. In general, anything over 85 decibels is too high. Normal conversation is around 60 decibels, except for mine, which is a lot louder. A lawnmower is about 90 decibels, and a rock concert gets up to 120 decibels. Some people can handle loud sounds better than others. I'm guessing Milton Reeves wasn't one of those people. So let's hear a story of how he came up with the muffler. It wasn't just the muffler he invented. We'll take a look at his other inventions too, as well as some of the strange-looking cars he built. It's 1864. Milton Reeves is born on a farm in Rush County, Indiana. At just 15 years old, Milton is working at a sawmill when he noticed that the workers can't control the speed of the pulleys used to power the saws. Milton is a perfectionist, so he spends months studying and experimenting until he finally comes up with a solution. He invents variable speed transmissions to control the speed of the pulleys. Basically, continuous variable speed transmission works by attaching a belt to 2 pulleys. The input pulley turns the belt, which, in turn, pulls the output pulley. If you adjust the gap between the pulleys, this changes the diameter, which changes the speed of the belt. This idea is so good that 10 years later, Milton and his brothers purchase a pulley company. By now, Milton is interested in motor vehicles. He uses his belt and pulley-based variable speed transmission on the first 4-wheeled motorcycle that he built. The first recorded test is September 1896, just 4 months after Henry Ford completed his quadricycle in his home workshop in Detroit. Milton's automobile is either the 4th or 5th American automobile built. He believes his vehicle is superior to Henry Ford's quadricycle, which only has 1 speed. But now he finds another problem, the noise and fumes created by the engine. After working on the problem, he invents the muffler. Let's take a look inside a muffler to see how it reduces noise. It looks fairly simple, just tubes, holes, and chambers. It's actually as cleverly made as a musical instrument. Except a musical instrument is designed to make sound and a muffler is designed to cancel sound. Hence a muffler, muffling something. Most car parts do say what they do. To understand how it does this, we need to know a bit about sound and how it travels. Sound travels in waves that start from the source of the sound to reach our ear. It's just like the waves you see when you throw a stone into the water. If you throw 2 stones at the same time, the waves interfere with each other. That's exactly what's happening with sound waves. Sometimes you get constructive interference, which happens when the waves combine together to create a larger wave. This results in a louder sound. But sometimes the waves are out of sync or phase and they cancel each other out. This is called destructive interference, and it reduces or cancels the sound. The muffler reduces the engine noise by reflecting the sound waves in such a way that they cancel each other out. In addition to the inner workings of the muffler, it's also constructed from layers of metal that help absorb the sound. The muffler quiets the engine, but it doesn't deal with the fume problems. So Milton begins working on making improvements to the engine. He looks at cooling and having the intake and outlet manifold on opposite sides. Milton also looks at making the drive smoother over rough roads of those days. He uses additional wheels to improve the vehicle's ability to absorb the shock. Many of his ideas, like twin steering, will be used in the future. Milton is just ahead of his time. But he's also ahead of his time when it comes to pricing. His cars are engineering masterpieces, but they're just too expensive. Hardly anyone can afford them. The Octo-Auto has 8 wheels and sells for $3,200. The Sexto-Auto with 6 wheels is a whopping $4,500. That would be over $100,000 in today's money. But his high-quality work is not noticed. The Aero Car Company orders 500 of his engines. Unfortunately, the company collapses. Finally, the Reeves family decides to sell the engine company. They continue to make the variable speed transmission until they also sell the company to Reliance Electric, now part of the Baldor Electric Company. This still leaves the problem of toxic emissions unsolved. Milton is not the only person to be concerned about it. Back in 1909, a French chemist, Michel Frenkel, talks about needing to add a catalytic agent to the exhaust boxes of motor vehicles. This is just after the Model T Ford goes into production. It will, however, be another 40 years before someone comes up with a solution. Enter Eugene Houdry, a mechanical engineer born in France. He's interested in high-performance fuels. It's 1931. He can't get financial support to produce new fuels in France, so he moves to New Jersey. Here, American companies support his work on improving fuel performance. It's now World War II. Eugene vocally opposes the French government, so he loses his French citizenship. Luckily for him, the U.S. grants him citizenship. Once the war is over, he becomes concerned about the health risks from automobile and industrial air pollution. He builds a generic catalytic converter that reduces carbon monoxide and on-burned hydrocarbons from exhausts. Today, the catalytic converter is part of most exhaust systems. Air enters the exhaust manifold, passes through the catalytic converter before it exits through the muffler. The catalytic converter consists of 2 ceramic blocks inside a metal casing. Each block has thousands of ducts coated with a catalyst metal, often palladium or gold. As the gas touches the metal, it reacts, and then recombines into harmless gases. The reason there are so many small ducts is to ensure that as much of the gas as possible touches the metal surface. If you combine the surface area of all the ducts on one flat surface, the size would be as big as a football field. Kinda too big to fit in the bottom of your car, huh? One of the ceramic blocks tackles toxic nitrogen oxide. It breaks it up into nitrogen and oxygen, both harmless. The other adds oxygen to the carbon monoxide, turning it into less harmful carbon dioxide. The third takes the on-burned hydrocarbon and turns it into carbon dioxide and water. And it does all of this in under a second. The original catalytic converter was patented by Eugene in 1962, the year in which he died. By 1975, the U.S. introduced regulations forcing its use on cars. The converter doesn't work with leaded fuel, as lead poisons the catalyst. But by the time it was introduced, lead was being eliminated from fuel. Catalytic converters only start working optimally when the engine is really hot, which only happens after a few miles. So they don't eliminate all the gas, but by most estimates, they're about 90% effective. So that's the story of the exhaust manifold and how the muffler and the catalytic converter works together to reduce noise and toxic gases. Not everyone likes them because they reduce a car's power. And there's no denying that loud, fast cars are a lot of fun. But most of the time, it's probably best that these features are in most modern cars.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.